So, hello and welcome. We are live for Formula 1 and today is a reverse track, something we are not used to, but we are now on to round 5 of the Pantheon Racing League Formula 1 here in Great Britain, the reverse track. Before we get started, I'll just run through a couple of things for tonight. So the reserves who are racing, there is 4 reserves today: Galvin Acklinkman, MRX KF1, Westerline, Seb the Goat. Those are the 4 reserve drivers for today. So apart from that, the driver's not going to be driving as worked out: Scorenzi, Jeppy, Stayhard, Tuerzo, and both the McLaren drivers. So as we get started, we will go through the current drivers' standings before we get started. Right. Clipsy leads the standings with 77 points. Olizzi, the Haas driver, on 62 points behind him. Behind him again, BP Ace with 44 points, RW06, Mercedes driver on 34 points, Tuerzo on 31 points, Ben on 29 points, Lewis Robb 29 points as well. Alfred, the Ferrari, along with Callum Hannon, his teammate, both 7th and 8th and 9th, sorry. Jeppy is in 10th and with 18 points. Joel in 11th with 16 points. That makes top 11 of the drivers' standings. Now, if we look at the previous results in Formula 1, we currently have in Bahrain, Alfred coming out on top with Olizzi second, BPA's coming up in 3rd place. In Azerbaijan, Clipsy won with Olizzi second and Duke in 3rd place. In Miami, Clipsy also won with RW06, his Mercedes teammate, coming in 2nd place, and Tuerzo makes the final spot of the podium. And our last race, our previous race to this, was Imola, where Ben won and the Aston Martin teammate coming in 2nd was BP Ace, Clipsy getting 3rd place. So, drivers' standings all done, previous results all done, Constructors' Championship yet to go through. Currently leading the Constructors' Championship is Mercedes on 111 points. Bit far ahead, ahead of Aston Martin in 2nd on 73 points, with Haas behind them on 69 points. Sauber on 46 points in 4th, and 5th is Ferrari on 45 points. In 6th is Williams with 39 points, and the Racing Bulls in 7th with 18 points. Alpine back in 8th, with 12 points. The Red Bulls are in 9th with 7 points, and McLaren are back in last with 1 point. So on board with Ben. All on the soft tyres. Ben goes through his first sector. The leader last week's, who won with his teammate in 2nd place, will be open for a good result here at the Great British Grand Prix. But in reverse, will there be a different outcome? Will we see drivers towards the bottom of the drivers' standings make an approach and make a climb up the table? On board with Ben, is this going to be a good lap? Pushing hard on the exits of the corners. Will he get a good final sector? And what time will he set the tone to? I believe there is someone in front of him, but Ben will come around very shortly. So Lewis Robb goes first fast with Alfred in 2nd with 126.3, but Ben comes around and goes 2nd fastest, 126.579. He's on board with RW06 on his 2nd sector. What time will he be able to produce out of the Mercedes car? Both Mercedes drivers have been so clinical in getting as much points as possible. And if that just would be 4 drivers moving out of the way of other drivers, I would assume. Around we go. And MXRK F1, we'll call him Mark. I would say the Red Bull driver, 1:26.0, and goes first fastest. The reserve driver for today for Red Bull, showing his worth. Try and get a call up for a main selection. Gavin Acklingham also coming through in 8th. A couple other drivers coming through, but on board with RW06. Yeah, that is very true. RW06 comes through and goes second fastest. Cannot beat the pole sitter, Mark F1. Currently, Clipsy goes third fastest as other drivers also come around. BP Ace also coming around. The Aston Martin driver who's been very good, very high up in the drivers' standings. What can BP Ace produce? Is he going to get a slipstream off his teammate? And he certainly is. That's going to get some time back for himself. And what will he come around to get? Will he be able to bring a pole position on the first lap of qualifying here at the Great British Grand Prix for Formula 1? As he comes around now, uses all that ERS, all the battery, and he's gone 6th fastest, the Aston Martin driver. On board with Joni, and around he's coming in Sector 2. We'll be moving on to Sector 3 very shortly. There's the Red Bull driver, currently sits in 15th in the driver's standings. Let's see what he can bring, see if he can bring a fairly positive time to push up towards his teammate Mark, who currently sits in pole, the reserve driver for Red Bull. Coming in today, as around goes Joni. What will he bring? Where will he come out? And it's P12, so unable to push as high as he would hope. Now aboard with Bino, the Sauber driver who's only recently joined for full, being brought in this week after a dropout for one of the Sauber cars, and around they go. And Bino is an invalidated lap time, I would assume so. The time is not shown for me, but there he comes off the track. Now aboard with the Haas driver, Olizzi. What will he be able to do? The Haas driver has been very strong in Formula 1. Will he be able to do it on a reverse track in Great Britain at Silverstone? Heavily into Sector 2 now. Will it be a strong enough time to beat the pole sitter, Mark? It looks very strong so far. But is it going to be quicker? Ben coming out to do his outlap as well, the Aston Martin driver. First laps are being done by most drivers, and Olizzi will be looking to put his Haas car on pole position after some very, very good results. Olizzi currently sitting second in the driver's standings, looking to get ahead of Clipsy, his teammate. And not his teammate, his rival. But is this a strong enough lap to beat the current pole sitter, Mark F1? Around comes Olizzi, and he goes 6th fastest. Slightly off the pace, I think he would say he would like to be up towards the top. No one yet able to beat the current leader's time, Mark F1, with a 1:26.001. So Joni out on his lap, and he's slower by a very little margin. Will he be able to gain that time back in the Red Bull? Will he be able to push on? Make sure to comment in the chat. Tell me who you want. I'll keep an eye out for them especially. Around comes Joni in the Red Bull. Will he be able to go faster than his original time. What time will he get at the end of Sector 2? And he's slower by a very small margin again. Is he going to be able to pick up the pace? Is he going to be able to go fastest? It doesn't look like he's going to be challenging Nitro. Okay, yeah, he's going out lap soon, right? Yeah, I'll keep an eye on them. And around comes Joni, and does go faster, but doesn't progress by that much. And Sauber coming out now. Clipsy and Nitro both on out laps at the minute. We'll keep on board with Alfred in 5th place, also on a lap. And where will he put his car? And he goes fastest. What a lap from Alfred in the Ferrari. A 1:25.864. A brilliant lap to put him on provisional pole. What a lap. On board with Nitro. Yes, I will do. Right now in Sector 1, the Racing Bull. 26.766. Sector 1. Currently 11th fastest. And around Sector 2. Will he be able to make an improvement on its 11th fastest time? So far, his Sector 2 time is so far looks strong. Is he going to be able to improve? The Racing Bull. Around he goes. Round. Hard corners. And a 1.02 in Sector 2. He is faster. But is it going to be enough to put his car ahead of some of the other drivers? Oh, and it's lost the grip of the car, and that will be slower than what he would expect on the final corners. Will he be able to improve? I very much doubt it. And he does improve, despite the error. And he pushes up to 9th fastest. Out of nowhere, he's pushed up. Clipsy, well, I don't really know what's happened, but going slow in the middle of the midst of the track. And there's RW06, the Mercedes driver. What will he be able to bring? Oh, he's not even on the lap. He's down by a big strong time. BPA's up by 0.38 seconds in Sector 1, and in Sector 2 0.5 seconds quicker. Will he be able to push up and maybe get up onto 3rd place towards that area to get a slipstream? Yes, he is. Onto the back straight, which would be the main straight, but we are in reserve. And 3rd fastest goes BP Ace. A wonderful lap. I'm currently on board with Clipsy, the Mercedes driver. 5 minutes to go of qualifying here on the reverse track of Great Britain. So Clipsy currently sitting in P6. Is he going to be able to improve? He did improve on his Sector 1 time by 0.1 second, but he would want more. Clipsy currently leading the driver's standings, and he's 0.035 seconds faster on this lap. Ben pushes up to P5, and around comes Clipsy. Is he going to have enough to push past Ben? The times are very... Oh, and he's went into pit. Very tactical, so he can come out and do one more lap, potentially. And RW6 currently on a lap. Mercedes driver. Most drivers are in the pits, getting prepared for the final lap of qualifying. But RW6 currently 4th in the driver's standings. But both Mercedes drivers have picked up some important points. Well, I missed something, but he's gone 2nd. He's gone 2nd fastest. He picked up the curb, and that will not be what he wants. He's going out to do 2 laps, I believe. He's 2nd fastest. Sector 2. On board with Ben, also in Sector 2. Bino going down in Sector 3. Callum Hannon, currently in 9th. Is he going to be able to improve on his time? And 9th fastest, struggling. Just with grip. Misfilling into the pit he goes with the final couple of minutes left. RW6 down in his time. I assume he'll come into pit this lap, or maybe just go slower because he's not going to have enough tyre else to come back out. Ben, sector 3, I believe, will be also going into pit this lap, going in for one more lap after this. So drivers will be slowly starting to come back out of the pit lanes. Clipsy is one of those. There's many more drivers. Please tell me if you want me to go on board with anybody in particular. Alfred, currently pole sitter with a 125.8. RW06 with a 125.9. Mark with a 126 exactly. Ben in 4th. BP8 in 5th. Clipsy in 6th currently. While Izzy in 7th. Bino in 8th. Callum Hannon and Nitrogen in 10th. So drivers coming out for one last out lap. So Zev King, the first out. Is he going to be able to improve on his time? Currently 13th fastest. Zev King far back in the driver's standings in 16th. Is he going to be able to pick up some important points to get out of that area? Zev King in 13th. As it stands, is his sector 2 time going to be strong? Slightly onto the grass. Very high speed corners. He might be able to get slipstream from the drivers in front of him. Is this going to be good enough? Around the corner he goes. Into the 1 minute mark. Is he going to be able to... He has been improving so far in his lap. But is it going to be enough to push him up further enough so that he is happy? Been onto the grass a couple of times. Going to lose a bit of time for that. Is he going to be able to hold on? And what time will he be able to get? Is he going to be able to improve? He probably will. And he does when he goes 8th fastest. Zev King up with his teammates. On board with Aaron Payne, who's in sector 1. 12th fastest. As it stands, will go to Clipsy. At the minute, currently out on a lap. Looking to push on. The current driver standings leader. Will he be able to do a time that puts him towards the top end? A top 3, and I think Clipsy will be very happy with that. And he is faster than his first lap time. Is he going to be able to improve by any more in this second sector? Mercedes driver, will he be able to improve? Most drivers out on the out lap, the final lap that they can do. The lap times will be coming up everywhere. But on board with Clipsy, is he going to be able to improve on his time? Initial time. Ben into 4th. BP8 into 5th, and on board with Clipsy now. And he is faster, but not by much. And is it going to be enough to put his Mercedes car further up towards the top of the grid? And around he goes on the final corners of this reverse track in Great Britain in round 5. Is Clipsy going to be able to put his car ahead? And he pushes up to P5, and that will be it. And Alfred goes faster again. On board with Ben, currently 4th, being a hardly out. So that is only because he's finished qualifying. So Ben currently in 4th in sector 2, one of the last to come through. Do the time on his final lap. Galvanic Linkman also finishes qualifying in P15. Alfred will finish as it stands in pole position. BP8 back in 7th, but still out. And Mark goes fastest with a 125.555. A wonderful lap by Mark F1 in the Red Bull, proving to the others and the team principles, what he is about this season. RW06 finishes in third, on board with Ben. Is he going to be able to improve? Is he going to stay in P4? Ben comes around, and I believe he will remain in P4. Yeah, P4 for Ben. So a very, very intense qualifying session where most drivers got some very good times. Mark F1 a decent amount ahead of Alfred. So there's all of a lot of incidents, no pit stops obviously. And we will be onto the race very, very, very shortly. So we'll go through the qualifying in 18th being our Harley, and the rest is above us. So there is a big gap between around 9th and 8th. But will we see that in the race? That is, or will they drop it off? And obviously strategy will be a very difficult one to decide. Difficult strategies to go off. Could we see some on hard tyres to start? I would say medium and hard tyres will be the preferred starting option here in Silverstone. Will we see any drivers go for a one stop, or will it have to be a two stop? I'm sure we will see some drivers try it. We are prepared for the start of this race in Formula 1 in Great Britain. It's a reverse track, the only reverse track of the season, and we will see what drivers can make the most of it. Top 5 currently in the drivers' standings is Tuazo, who has currently been not racing today. He did have a qualifying ban, but he will not be racing. So formation lap to start the race. I made a mistake with that last week, and I said that was the start of the race apparently. But we are out for the formation lap. We'll see what tyres everybody will be on. Everybody on medium set from Galvanac Linkman. So most drivers on the medium tyres. And we'll be able to see what the drivers are able to do in Silverstone as they get the tyres warm for the start of this race. Will we see any chaos in the first corners, or will the drivers keep it clean? Questions that will be answered very, very shortly as the drivers warm up their tyres. It is looking to be a very interesting race here, round 5. We are very much into full flow of the season here in Pantheon Racing League. Make sure to drop a follow to this account to keep up to date. The next race will be Brazil, and it will all be making its way to the final day in Abu Dhabi, which will be round 12 and the final race. We've got Brazil, Qatar, Monza, Spain, Austria, Mexico and Abu Dhabi yet to race. The drivers make their way to the starting grid. Will the drivers be able to hold the mark? Will they be able to get a good start? Drivers towards the back of the grid. Just coming onto the track now, taking their time warming up the tyres. On board with the race leader, Mark F1. Yeah, he raced very well, well done. If that was you, anyway. I believe it was. He did race, unbelievably. And the red lights are on. The 5 red lights are on. Lights are out, and away we go. Here in Silverstone, who will get the good starts? Is there going to be any moves made on Mark F1? And he remains in front. Ben moves past Alfred, and there has been chaos towards everywhere the track, really. Drivers really showing what they can, trying to push up past their rivals early on. Clipsy moving up to P4. Alfred having some early struggles after having such a good qualifying. He's dropped off very slightly. Lewis Robb moved past BNR Harley, who is a new driver for Alpine, only just came in this week. So Mark F1 leads RW06, and Mercedes driver Seb the Goat gets a 3-second time penalty. The reserve driver for McLaren. So Ben up into 4th place. Alfred drops back to P5 again. Zev King and BNR Harley battling it out in the rest of the track. Seb the Goat with the time penalty. And the current leader, Mark F1. No one yet to make a move on him to get past him. 26 laps of racing to go on this reverse track in round 5. The fastest lap of the race is Mark F1. Yeah, very good lap, actually. So the drivers all following. Clipsy moves up into 3rd place, so gap slightly starting to form between Clipsy and Ben, but is it really going to mean that much with DRS incoming? There'll be a very big DRS train, but still leading the race, Mark F1. Will he be able to hold on the full 26 laps? We are yet to find out. I think this is going to be a very close race. Whoever wins will be deserving of that hard work. Mark F1, a reserve driver for Red Bull, only coming in due to Stay Hard not being available to race. So around we go as we come around towards the final corners of lap 2. The lead remains for Mark and RW06 trailing, but the gap is certainly really closing in. And Lewis Robb moves past Nitro. RW06 gaining every lap with DRS. And Mark F1 Clipsy also coming into contention, very slowly creeping his way up towards his teammate. Can they work together to make a move on Mark F1 as we enter lap 3 here at Great Britain? So RW06 gaining on Mark F1. Will he be able to hold on? Whereas the pace of the Mercedes drivers too much for the reserve driver, who's raced very well so far. Gap starting to form between 3rd and 4th place. So Ben and Clipsy, the gap is really starting to open up. And this just will get wider as Ben is out of DRS. Lewis Robb making another move on his teammate Aaron Payne. 2 moves made by the Williams driver, nicely done by him. So some gaps increased between Ben and Clipsy, and the gap out front is only staying very much the same. Will there be a move made by RW06? Or will Mark remain out in front on lap 4? He still remains in front so far. Clipsy back in 3rd place, but very much still in the fight for the victory. Ben back in P4. Gap starting to form, but can certainly pull that back. Lizzie Alfred back in P6. BPA in 7th. Seb the Goat with a penalty, and Lizzie has moved past Ben in a very good overtake, which we were unable to see, but The Haas driver moves up past the Aston Martin car. So with DRS, can RW06 make the most of it and make a move past Mark F1? He will not quite make the move. Alfred making a move on Ben, so 2 positions lost, but they are still battling. And Alfred remains ahead. Zev King moving past Callum Hannon, but those 2 battling it out. Oh, there seems the Ferrari driver and the Haas driver. So Ben is now near his teammate, as very close towards Alfred. Unable to really create anything. While Izzy in P4, Clipsy in P3, RW06, P2, and Mark F1 remains out in front on lap 5. Will he be able to hold on? The 2 Mercedes drivers yet to combine to really create. So Rubino gets a 3-second time penalty for exceeding track limits. The gap is really increasing between Clipsy and Olizzy. And RW06 has made the move. Mark F1 is overtaken. The gap was just hurtling down. And Mark F1 gets overtaken. He's still battling back on RW06. Is he going to be able to hold on? And with DRS, can Mark F1 get past? And Clipsy's gone for the move. And he goes through down the inside. A brilliant move from Clipsy. And the 2 Mercedes drivers are in front, but they're battling it out well. Mark F1 still battling against Clipsy. Is he going to be able to try and move past him? Clipsy in P2, RW06 in P1. And this is only going to bring the other drivers like Alfred, Olizzy, Ben, BPH back into the race. But Mark F1 is dropped back to P3. Brilliant work from the Mercedes drivers, who battled together once one was passed. And it's really tight at the top. Clipsy, RW06 are very close together, and will we see those 2 drivers battling it out? Or will they just maintain position? And the stands will keep it that way, but Mark F1 still in the fight. Alfred slowly but surely gaining Wester Lane. Moves past Seb the Goat. And Zev King also moving past Callum Hannon again. Battles towards the back of the pack of this F1 grid. So Clipsy remains in his 2nd place after overtaking Mark F1 on the previous lap. But is he going to be able to hold on? The 2 Mercedes drivers have battled tremendously to hold on to these 2 positions after not an amazing qualifying session. No incidents at all. Just really good pace from the Mercedes drivers. Mark F1 was out in P1, but they worked together, kept DRS, and now there's a gap forming between 3rd and 4th, but it's slowly starting to get pulled back by Alfred. Olizzy and Ben and BPH also in that pack, chasing 3rd place Mark. Bino moves past Seb the Goat. And into pit is Seb the Goat. So an early pit stop, and Ben would get a 3-second time penalty. It's not exactly what the Aston Martin driver wants. So the lead remains for RW06. 2 Mercedes drivers who have battled hard this season to get a very big point gap between Mercedes and Aston Martin. Aston Martin sit on 73 points behind Mercedes, who are on 111 points on the Constructors' Championship before this race. So both Mercedes drivers are very close to each other. Potentially see a move being done. Do not want any controversy though. Mark F1 behind them. And he'll be 100% looking to bounce on any mistakes being made by the two in front of him. Alfred sat in P4, but slowly but surely he is gaining and getting back towards the DRS, which he will be pleased to have, and put him back up into contention for a podium finish. So Mark F1 still within reaching distance of Clipsy, and Clipsy also within reaching distance of RW06 as Nitrogen moves past Lewis Robb, and those two battling it out. We can put on board with them, and it's a three-way battle, and it's Lewis Robb that's come out on top. So is Nitro going to be able to move past here? Doesn't look to be, and he's got pressure from BNR Harley, who isn't going to be able to move past. Back up to the top of the grid, top of the race, and who will lead? RW06 remains out in front. We enter the final couple of corners. And it's the final corner of Sector 2, and into Sector 3 we go on the reverse track. Mark F1 remains similar sort of time gap, and Alfred is now up into DRS. Or Lizzie dropped behind a bit, which is not meaning that he is going to be able to get DRS on Alfred to really push on towards a podium. Alfred currently 8th in the drivers' standings, 25 points, but with this result as it stands, he will definitely be pushing up, probably up into the top 5. So we see Olizzi pitting, and drivers all cruising past him. Mark F1 still in 3rd place, and that gap's increased, and Alfred's really gaining on him here. So Mark F1 must have made a mistake, and Alfred's going to try and make the move. He's not going to make it quite at this point. And we also see Clipsy and RW06 also coming really close to each other. Mark and Alfred is the battle right now for 3rd place early on in this race. Alfred in P4, and he's gaining and gaining with DRS. Not going to be able to make the move quite yet. There certainly is a slight gap between 4th and 5th then, in 5th place. But can Alfred close the gap and make the move as quickly as he would like? Two out front, the two Mercedes drivers working together within DRS, gaining that time as much as they can. But can Alfred make the move to move up to P3 on Mark F1, the reserve driver? It's his first race in the Pantheon Racing League Formula 1. As Nitro moves past BNR Harley. Is Alfred close enough? He's not close enough as it stands. He's just not there. Clipsy still in 2nd and still gets DRS, and BNR Harley with a 10-second time penalty as people come into pit. That is not what the Alpine driver will want on his debut race. 3-second time penalty for Zev King. As we are on board with Clipsy, looking to gain on his teammate as much as he can, Mark F1. And the gap is so increasing now between 3rd and 2nd. Cool stuff between those two Mercedes drivers. They look really, really strong. You see people in the pit, bottom 4 coming to pit. So Mark F1, the gap between the Red Bull and the Mercedes is just increasing by every lap. In lap 10, we are slowly closing towards lap 11. Alfred looking to try and make the move on Mark F1. Unable to get the move done at the minute. Couple of drivers locking up into the final corners in Sector 3. Alfred sits in 4th place. Is he going to be able to progress? As we see Mark F1 with a 10-second time penalty. for speeding in the pit lane. And how much is that going to damage his race as it started? So Westerlane with another 10 seconds penalty. And that is not what some of these drivers would want. So the two Mercedes drivers still out. Still keeping it their race. Galvanack-Linkman pushing up due to the other drivers pitting. And actually, Galvanack-Linkman is still yet to pit. So the drivers currently still yet to pit. Tyres all rocked onto the hards. Most drivers on the hard tyres. Pretty much all drivers that have pitted are on the hard tyres. See the biggest position change so far, but penalties is looking that way. 3 drivers with 10-second time penalties. And as the 2 out front lead the way and push as hard as they can on their current tyres, on their medium tyres so far, and they look to try and probably more than likely do a one stop but push the tyres a lot more. Ben yet to pit as well with the 3-second time penalty, but Mark F1 is in 3rd place. And we see Clipsy move past RW06 as RW06 goes into pit, keeps it clean in the pit lane, no speeding as 3 drivers already have done. So Aaron Payne with a 10-second time penalty, the Williams with that 10-second penalty. Is it going to be a good stop? It will be a very, very strong stop for the Mercedes driver. So on board with Clipsy, the race leader, Galvanack-Linkman, up into P2. I don't think that's what he would be expecting. Had a very strong race last week. Drivers move around in their positions after pitting. Most drivers have pitted. Joni, Galvanack-Linkman and Clipsy yet to pit. But they pretty much will be pitting this lap. As we see, RW06 comes back out into 3rd place. And he's got traffic behind him actually. And he's got Alfred behind him. So pitting now for Clipsy is going to put him into a whole lot of trouble. Alfred in P4 and he's gaining and he's looking to make the move on who was the race leader before everybody pit. He goes around the outside. Alfred goes around the outside. Is he going to be able to stick the move out? He goes on the inside and holds position. Alfred moves up to P3. Clipsy into pit. This has to be a strong pit stop. Alfred and RW06 battling it out. They keep it clean. And RW06 moves back past him. Great racing. They're still side by side. Alfred moves up back past. And RW06 will now also push back. Who will come out on top? With Clipsy also moving back into P4. RW06 holds on to the move as it stands. Galvanack-Linkman stays out. So RW06 leads, but not by very much. And through goes Clipsy. Wonderful stuff. Clipsy moves past. The Mercedes drivers work together to create a treat. Alfred making the move on Clipsy, RW06. Chaotic stuff on lap 13. RW06 remains out in front. Alfred still pushing very hard on RW06. Brilliant stuff from the 2 Mercedes drivers. RW06 just kept hold and just pushed Alfred very slightly as Olizzi moves up past Alfred. And after this pit stop is being some big moves. Mark F1 moves also past Alfred. So Alfred, who was just then battling for the lead, is now back into P5 and potentially P6. Mark F1 looks to make the move. Is he going to be able to hold on to the move? And around we go. Mark F1, is he going to be able to stick the move out? Or is Alfred going to be able to hold on? Seb the GOAT with the time penalty. And held on is Alfred as it stands, but both wheel by wheel side by side. Mark F1 with a 3-second time penalty. He's already on a 10-second time penalty. And around he goes, and off the track. Alfred goes off the track and gets a 3-second time penalty for something that he got pushed off the track for. So Alfred will be back in P6. Mark F1 remains in P5, but with a 13-second time penalty. Galvanac Linkman remains out. And around we go again. Galvanac Linkman trying to defend his position, but yet to pit. So very much struggles to do so, and now through goes Alfred, the Ferrari driver, as he looks to hold on to his position, and he does so. So the two leaders, they leaded before the first pit, and now they currently remain in the lead, as Olizzi is slowly but surely gaining on RW06 as we move up past halfway of this race. In this reverse race of F1, Olizzi looks to be pushing on towards RW06, and it's very tight between the top 5 drivers. Mark with a big 13-second time penalty, and off he goes. Mark F1's back off the track, and that is not what he wants, and he's struggling. He's lost so many places. He's back into P17. He's battling, and he's off the track again. Mark F1 back into P7. That is not what he wants, and he's pushed past again, assuming that to give the place back. BPAce, but Mark F1 is back into P6 as Ben moves past him, and there's Clipsy and RW06, the two Mercedes drivers, battling it out for the lead. RW06 just moves past. Clipsy does not fight it. A brilliant race from those two out front so far. Olizzi in P3. Is he going to be able to push on towards the two Mercedes drivers, BNR Harley? Another 3 seconds. And 13-second time penalty. As Mark F1 moves past, they're wheel to wheel, and around we go. BPH looks to hold on. Mark F1 holds on. Both of them pushing each other to the limits. And BPH looks to hold on, but Mark F1's still there. Mark F1 holds and tucks in. Goes on the inside. A switchback move from BPH, but Mark F1 holds on. This is great racing in F1 in round 5 of the Pantheon Racing League. Great move from Mark F1 and Ben. Great racing. They're still battling it out. But who will come out on top at the end? That is the question with 10 laps to go. Mark F1 with a big 13-second time penalty, which will certainly not help him at all. Most drivers on hard tyres, Galvanac Linkman on mediums. Only recently he's back in P17. So Olizzi in P3, looking to try and gain as much as he can. Alfred in P4, who did a very chaotic race from going to P1 back to P3 to P2. He's been all over the place at the top. But Alfred will be trying to keep himself in contention for a podium finish with DRS as Aaron Payne moves past, and Seb the Goat is off the track. Seb the Goat with no front wing rejoins. That is not what the McLaren driver wanted. A reserve driver, not a McLaren driver, but he is driving for McLaren, and that is not what he would want in his first race in this Formula 1. As the two drivers out front remain the same since lap 6. Callum Hanna moves past Seb the Goat. RW06 remains in front of Clipsy, and Seb the Goat is out and off the track. Zev King slowly cruising down. Do we have a safety car? I'm not sure if we have a safety car, but Seb the Goat is out of the race. Callum Hannon The P13. So all the drivers slowed down. It might be a VSC. I'm unable to know now, but it looks like they are still going very fast. So no safety car being released as such as I can see yet. So I believe that is that, but they must be still racing. Still cautioned. Calvin Ackman has got a drive-through penalty, and it is green. It was a VSC. It was a virtual safety car. So the penalties all given. No, drive penalty for Calvin Ackman. RW06 remains the leader of this race. DNF for Seb the Goat, who is a reserve driver for Formula 1. In his first race did not go to plan. The leader remains the same since lap 6. The second place remains the same since lap 6. Mercedes are having a brilliant race here. Can they hold it on for a 1-2 finish? A 1-2 finish in Great Britain. And around goes RW06. Well, is he still up in contention? Has he got the pace to push on and to push past Clipsy? And off the track goes Alfred. Alfred behind Olizzi goes off the track, and that will be costly. He still has DRS, and he's still going to try and push on. But was that costly? It will certainly be slightly costly at Calvin Ackman in to serve his drive-through time penalty. Alfred off the track, and he's really close to the 1 second mark. He does get DRS and remains that way, and we really need that. And Olizzi is now dropping off from the 2 Mercedes drivers, and with 8 laps to go, that is not what he'll want. And now Alfred looks to gain on Olizzi, the Haas driver. Has been so good. He would be loving to get onto the podium for Haas. Is he going to be able to hold on? Or has Alfred got the pace and got the power? Who's on the fresher tyres is Alfred. But the 2 out front have certainly got the fresher tyres. Clipsy does the fastest lap, and the gap extends to nearly 2 seconds. And off the track goes Alfred. They still battle for the podium. Alfred does have a 3-second time penalty, so that will certainly not be what he wants if he wants to try and get past Olizzi, and he still certainly has contention to doing so. So is he going to be able to move up and move past Alfred? 0.8 seconds away, so he will get DRS on the main straight. As we come up to the final corners and we approach the final 6 laps of this race, it's been kept very clean. There's only 1 DNF. Seb the Goat, the reserve driver. But the 2 remain out in front that have been for so long, and Alfred closing the gap on Olizzi. Is Olizzi going to have enough time to hold on? Is he going to have the tyres? Is he going to have the grip on the car? As BNR Harley moves past Nitro. 2 kick salvers also in 10th and 9th. Getting some important points. As around we go. 6 laps of racing to go. RW06 leads. Clipsy in second. Who will have the pace to finish the race on top? Olizzi currently holding on to his 3rd place. Alfred with DRS. The tyres are the only problem that could affect Olizzi, as Alfred has a 3-second time penalty initially. People behind him also have the time penalties, but Mark F1 set up such a good race for himself, starting on pole position, Gets a 10-second penalty. For initially he gets taken. Ederson moved on. Alfred moved past Olizzi. And with 6 laps to go, is Olizzi going to be able to keep the 3-second gap so he can maintain and keep hold of that 3rd place? Is he going to be able to keep in DRS so that Alfred is unable to get back by? These two battling it out, and they probably will be battling it out till the end. Caution in sector 3. And the drivers come off track. BPS moves up past Mark F1, and it just gets from bad to worse, so it gets overtaken again as Alfred breezes around. The gap still not what Alfred would want. He needs it above 3 seconds between him and Olizzi if he wants a podium finish. The two out front remain in front, and by 2.5 seconds the Mercedes drivers have worked their magic again in Formula 2. They have been absolutely superb. They've put on some absolute shows. They've had a 1-2 in Miami. They've had some brilliant races. Well, Clipsy especially. Clipsy currently in 2nd. But these two will be allowed to fight. 2.7 seconds the gap between Alfred and Clipsy. Is Olizzi going to be able to put pressure on Alfred for the battle of 3rd place? And around goes Olizzi with a slight lock up. He's going to be able to maintain within DRS, and he's going to be able to push him onto the final straight, back straight of this lap. Is he going to have enough? He's not going to be able to utilise his minimal DRS to what he would like, as the gap now extends to 3 seconds, near enough, between 3rd and 2nd. The two Mercedes are looking to extend their gap in the drivers' standings and in the constructors' standings. Bino pits the Kick Sauber. It's his first race for Sauber, and he'll be trying to get some points, but with having to pit doesn't look the best way in doing so. Lewis Robb moves past him. Lewis Robbo, I need to say. So Olizzi with DRS looking to try and get past Alfred, but he doesn't need to. He just needs to keep the DRS for the rest of the race with the 4 laps we have left. As the laps tick down and the gap extends between Alfred and Clipsy. Clipsy and RW06, the two Mercedes drivers, are really stretching their lead, and the gap has extended. Olizzi and Alfred battling for P3. Bino with a 3-second time penalty, which is not what he wants. If he wanted points today, he's not going to get them as it stands, unless a safety car comes his way. It's been very, very clean, this race, with 3 laps to go, and the drivers making their way around into the main straight. And with DRS for Olizzi, he will get it. He just needs to progress on the car ahead of him, and it looks like it will be P3 as it stands for Olizzi. Or is Alfred going to be able to extend the gap? The gap between Alfred and Clipsy has been 3.6 seconds. Incredible race by Mercedes. Just kept together, kept the DRS, and pushed on hard. But who will come P3? As it stands, Olizzi will be P3 due to the time penalty of Alfred. And Alfred did start P2 in this race. Olizzi's gained 3 places, then dropped 1 place, but look at positions made by the Mercedes drivers, up 3 and up 2 for the 2 who are leading this race. Everyone pretty much will be doing the 1-stop, couple of drivers on the 2-stop. So now the penalty situation. Big amount of penalties in the midst of the track. 2 laps to go. Clipsy and RW06 leading the way by a very large amount. Two laps to go of racing. Callum Hannon moves past Nitro. Nitro still with a chance to get points. Seb the Goat left the session, obviously out of the race. Penalties for Callum Hannon will mean that Nitro will move up into... They will move up very, very far actually. They'll move up into P10, so he should be able to pull off points. Racing Bulls driver. Lizzie in P4, and the gap is slowly increasing. With 2 laps to go, Alfred needs that gap to become 3 seconds in order to stay in 3rd place, and it'll be a very, very close end of the race. Zev King back in P15 gets another 3-second time penalty as we approach the final corner, and we go on to the penultimate lap of the reverse track in round 5, Silverstone. Olizzy in P4, he's looking to gain and get 3 seconds ahead of Alfred. The gap is increasing, so Alfred's 3-second time penalty will need to be the difference for Olizzy. Penalties are looking like that. So Olizzy will need to keep that time below 3 seconds, and it's 2 seconds now, so this is going to be very, very close. And with the tyre difference, who will remain out on front by the end? Lewis Robb with a 3-second time penalty, so another penalty for him. So Clipsy and RW06 maintained it clean the whole race, and they lead the way the whole race by 4.4 seconds. Behind is Alfred and then Olizzy. Olizzy, the gap is very, very close as we come on towards the final lap of the race, and the 2 Mercedes drivers coming very close together. The gap's very, very far from them and the other drivers. So Olizzy, 2.3 seconds between him and Alfred. And this is going to be a very interesting final lap of the race as through they go. The final lap of the race in Formula 1. Clipsy leads the driver's standings before this race, and he will maintain that. And RW06 will also increase on other drivers. It's 2.6 seconds, 2.7 seconds between Olizzy and Alfred. Who will come out on top in the final corners for 3rd place? Alfred will be pushing the car to the max to try and get a 3-second gap. Olizzy, is he going to be able to get a podium? Is he going to be able to push on and get some really crucial points to keep his position in the driver's standings, as he's currently in P2, driver's standing 2nd with 62 points. And as it stands, it looks like he's going to keep it that way, but with final corners that are crucial for him, is he going to be able to hold on? It's 2.8 seconds as we enter towards Sector 3. Mark moves past BPH, but with a 13-second time penalty, that will not be very helpful. And around comes the race leaders. The gap between Olizzy and Alfred is 2.86 and 2.9 seconds. Who will come out on top? And it looks like Alfred, but the 2 Mercedes drivers will take the lead, and Olizzy, Alfred remains in 3rd place by absolutely minuscule seconds. And it's not even seconds that have separated the 2. As we see the drivers just coming through now. Mercedes have had an absolutely unbelievable day at the office. Westerlane through in 9th, Mark F1 in 8th, Aaron Payne in 7th, BPA's 2 Aston Martin drivers coming home with an unbelievable, solid result. As Nitro will pick up a point for Racing Bulls. Callum Hannon P11, P12 BNR Harley, P13 Lewis Robb, P14 Bino, and Zev King is just about to cross the line. There he goes through in P15. Gavin Linkman and Joni also are coming through now. So that concludes the race for today. Round 5, Silverstone. Brilliant race from the 2 Mercedes drivers, and how they raced it was unbelievable. So a first and second, a brilliant 1-2. So what a result for the Mercedes drivers. Clipsy also getting the fastest lap, and those are summing up the results of today's race. As we just go through the race director and clear up the final classification. And a win for RW06, who gets 25 points. Clipsy in second, 2 Mercedes drivers, 1-2, a brilliant result. P3 is Alfred, and P4 is Olizzy. P5 Ben, P6 BP Ace, P7 Aaron Payne, P8 Mark F1, P9 Westerlane, P10 Nitro, P11 Callum Hannon, P12 BNR Harley, P13 Lewis Robb, P14 Bino, P15 Zev King, P16 for the reserve driver Galvanac Linkman, P17 Joni, and P18 Seb the Goat, who DNF'd. That finishes the race. Thank you all very much for watching. Make sure to drop a follow, and I shall see you all next week, where we will be racing in Brazil. Actually, I'm not here next week, so somebody else will be commentating for Formula 1. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure to drop a follow. Thank you very much, and goodbye.